It's your girl, Nycci Nellis, coming back to you again. 2 shows in 1 week. Yes, I'm keeping count, and so should you. So welcome to Industry Night, the show that takes you on the deep dives of the happenings in and around the hospitality industry. And today I'm doing something really different, and I'm so excited about it because we're talking about corn, but not like the corn you're going to eat for July 4th corn, like corn transformed. So I'm sure most of you have eaten a corn tortilla, but I'm sure none of you thought about how did that corn tortilla get made? Like, do you know that over 3,500 years ago, someone in Mesoamerica figured out that if you took dried corn and soaked it in an alkaline solution, like water and lime, for example, and let it sit, that the kernels actually change. I mean, science, people, real science. I don't even know how this happens, and somebody 3,500 years ago did. But what's interesting is the nutrients that unlock and how the starch becomes something workable. And the process is called nixtamalization, which is a friggin' mouthful, but it is the reason that corn has been able to sustain entire civilizations. So I'm very excited. So when I was back out in James Beard in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and I think I bring it up on every show because it was so amazing. I went to a dinner featuring indigenous chefs and their cuisine. And there was a lot of discussion about nixtamalization and corn. And today I'm joined by 3 chefs who each carry that weight differently. So I've got one who grinds corn in-house every single day inside a taqueria here in DC. I've got one who's about to open a restaurant in Tucson built entirely on this process, and one who's built his company on getting heirloom Zapotec corn and fair pay for the farmers who grow it into kitchens across the American South. I'm so excited for this conversation. Some of you may have caught my piece on the listoreyouwanted.com, behind the counter, the conversation of corn. Consider tonight the live version. So let me tell you who's joining me. I have Chef Mendez. So he learned to cook in his mother's kitchen in Oaxaca, but his mother isn't just anybody. Like, she's one of the most celebrated cooks in the state. And now he's here in DC with Apapacho Taqueria and Maria by Apapacho. And then next is Chef Jose Contreras. He's a 2025 James Beard semifinalist. He is the owner of Amelia's in Tucson, named for the grandmother who raised him. And he's got a new restaurant coming up, and it's built entirely around this concept. And last joining us is Chef Luis Martinez. Now, he is born in a small Zapotec pueblo in Oaxaca. He came to the U.S. in 2005, and he runs a business based in Asheville called Takio Foods. They source heirloom corn straight from these farmers, and he is fighting for indigenous foodways. Well, I mean, they're all kind of fighting for indigenous foodways. So I'm so excited to have you all here tonight. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, so I'd love for you each to talk about yourselves a little bit, because I didn't want to bore people with like your bios and everything. So Chef Luis, I'd love to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how you got into the food space?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited to be here. Well, I was born in Santa Catarina, Loxicha, Oaxaca, which is a region in the south of like the Oaxaca state, around like 4 or 5 hours. Now with the freeway, we're like 30 hours from Oaxaca City. I was born there in the 80s, and basically I come from a family that always working corn and coffee, and then we moved back to the city back in the 90s, and then I grew up in Oaxaca City. I work in a couple of restaurants over there, or more than a couple, but I moved to the United States in 2005, like you mentioned, and basically what we've been doing, I work in a bunch of like fine dining restaurants, so I think probably my other 2 chefs over here, they will have the same kind of experience. I work in fine dining, always doing like French food and Italian. But, there was a point where I was like tired of it, thinking that it was not exactly what I wanted to do because, like that kind of food doesn't represent me. And also like it's not part of who I am. And then back in 2022, once I closed one of my restaurants and bars, I was looking for something different to do, and I went back to Oaxaca, and I went to work in my little community, and that's where it kind of like make a click inside my head. So I started to work with farmers. I started to work with a network of different people down there, and basically I started to go to different regions all over the state, and I work a lot with the Mija region, which is like in the north side, and they are one of the people that will never really concur, and it's kind of like really rough sometimes and very hard to work with them. But we've been trying to make like even more like a local like economy that benefit to them. And but I also cook, so basically my project is not just like bringing corn. I also like grow corn here in North Carolina as well. This is the second year that I'm growing corn, and also like cook in a bunch of like restaurants all over the country. So part is like education and also like telling people how we can grow corn. And there is really good corn going here in different regions, like the Cherokee blue corn in this side and of the reservations. So I was able in the last 2 years being able to work more like the indigenous food lab and also with a bunch of different reservations all over the country. So since being Zapotec, kind of like I'm as all I'm known in Loxicha, we speak Zapoteco or Dista as we call it.
Well, that's perfect, Luis. I'm going to put a pin in you for a second, and I'm going to go to Alam. And I mean, because, for me, I'm a Jersey girl, so I grew up in New Jersey. So we have New Jersey corn, like silver white corn. And it is not for doing anything with, but just simply eating. But what you guys are talking about is so different. So Alam, I'd love to talk a little bit about your growing up with your mom and sort of your commitment to the cuisine that you grew up with.
Sure. Thank you again for inviting me. I love to share about our culture. Oaxaca, as you know, is an amazing place, and you will never finish knowing about it. So every time I can share a little bit, I'm very happy to do it. So, well, I grew up in a restaurant industry family. My parents opened our restaurants when I was 2 years old without knowing nothing about restaurants. That's something that I really admire about them. They opened it because of necessity. And what they've done with Las Quincertas is just amazing. The restaurant is now 36 years. And it's in the Michelin Guide. It's a big man in the Michelin Guide. But it wasn't like that when I was a kid. So it's a process of growth. So I grew up with that process. I think Las Quincertas and me, we both are like some sons for my mom. And well, I have an older brother and a younger sister, but we all grow together. The restaurant was at the beginning of the house. So every time I need to go to my house, my bedroom, my parents' bedroom, we need to go through the restaurant. And it's when I start like getting involved with the kitchen, with my father at the beginning starting to taking me with him to the market. He used to go every Tuesday and every Fridays to La Central de Abastos in Oaxaca. That are the biggest day for farmers there in Oaxaca. And he teach me how to select products, what they need for the restaurant, how to understand more about herbs. My mom as well, with the calites and with the indigenous ingredients. When I was going with her, she teach me a lot of how to understand more our products. What are the difference between the plum tomatoes that we can find and the tomate riñón, that is a heirloom tomato from Oaxaca. So she was. I started learning that as a day of the day thing when I was a kid, and then also they involved us. It was a family restaurant, so when it was busy, we need to help. So we help dishwashing, we help it like cooking, cleaning, as a cashier. So we help in different areas, And then I decided that I wanted to do restaurant for my life. I wanted to be a cook. I wanted to be a chef. So I decided to focus more on that area, and my parents gave me the opportunity to study a culinary career. Then after that, I think it was just when I realized that Las Quincertas was an amazing place, but I also need to know more, you know, to understand more about cooking, about different techniques, about different concepts. So I started traveling. I applied at the beginning for estagiaire positions and then for cook positions in different places. I worked in Spain, in Denmark. I worked in Chile, in Guatemala. And then I opened a restaurant in Mexico City as a chef. The name was Pasillo de Humo. It was a very traditional restaurant focused on Oaxacan food. I love that place a lot. And it also opened to me different doors to cook around the world. I cooked in the Philippines, in Russia, in South Africa, trying to represent Oaxacan food and Mexican food. To me, since beginning, was being all about the product, all about traditions. As I grew up with these traditions in the restaurant, taught by my mom, I try to do the same in the restaurants I am representing. So, if we are having a tortilla in a menu, where does this tortilla come from? I'm not against buying something, but if we are trying to do like our best representing our food, we want to know where it comes from. So we source the corn directly from Mexico. We grind.
Alan, wait, I'm going to stop you there. I want to get into all that, but I want to be able to let Chef Jose introduce himself,
Okay, sorry.
and then we'll get it. I know, it's so exciting, and I'm with you for it. But I want to let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the process and why you all are doing it in your own way. So, Chef Jose, tell me a little bit about you, because you're not from Oaxaca.
No. I'm born and raised in Hermosillo, Sonora. Sonora is a desert. Uh, my passion for cooking began as a child, cooking outdoors with my grandma Amelia, over food, fire in Sonora. Those moments shaped my love for Mexican cuisine, and then I start from that, and I decided to move to US 20 years ago, and now I have my concept about my recipes from my grandma Amelia, and I'll be short.
No, it's okay.
From my grandma Amelia, and then I just start with this concept, and then I start from there. Tortillas de harina is flour tortillas is something that we do on Amelia's. We do it from scratch, and now we start with the corn and doing an events, the nixtamalized tortilla, and it's something that my passion for corn, and I just start going like Oaxaca, Tlaxcala on north, and learning from techniques from I have the opportunity to be in Spain like already like three, 4 times a year, and learning another techniques, and now Amelia's, and now I'm working just nixtamalized tortilla, focus on that on Carizal, Molino and Cocina here in Tucson. It's gonna be a fine dining.
This is kind of a really perfect place to start with you, because what I want to talk with all of you about this is like sort of why this, why now, right? So Chef Jose, like what was it about nixtamalization, putting that into your cuisine? What was it, given the other techniques that are done in northern part of Mexico, like what was it that you were like, that was speaking to you?
I think it's because it's something that we don't grow up with on Hermosillo. It's something that we don't do. So when I just learning from another chef, learning with Luis Martinez, that chef teach me all that I know about tortilla. He's a master. He's from Oaxaca. And then
You're shaking your head. He's like, no.
He was my coach, my tutor. And then, but I had the opportunity to work with another chefs as well with our nixtamalized tortillas. And I started doing the tetelas, doing the molotes, and then we made a collab together in Tucson. Was crazy. But we made it and people like it. And I'm like, now is my opportunity to do this. And then I start with Carizal, and I want to do like with my ingredient from the desert, nopal, chiltepin, all those ingredients that I can use and mix it Sonora with Oaxaca and do something different for Tucson. And I'll be the first person in Tucson doing nixtamalized tortillas.
Well, so let's back up from that a little bit. And Luis, maybe you're the right person to sort of talk about the nixtamalization process and really what it is, and why it's so paramount to the cuisine that you all practice.
Oh, you mean what is for me? What means
Well,
for me? Oh,
yeah,
means
so I mean, for people who don't know what nixtamalization is, I mean, in the intro, I gave a brief description of it, but
yeah.
what is it?
So it's because it's something that I want to mix it up to Sonora from Oaxaca. And so it means a lot for me because tortilla is very approachable with corn. So it's something different than a Tex-Mex that we do in Tucson. It's more like Tex-Mex,
No,
more
I was
American food.
asking, actually, Chef, if you don't mind, I was asking Luis if he could tell us sort of about the process more.
Oh,
Like,
okay, cool.
do you mind? So, Luis, do you mind telling us a little bit about the process of nixtamalization and sort of how it all, like how, which I think would better explain how and why you all are using it.
Yeah, of course. And I think if I make a mistake, Chef Aaron, you're more than welcome to
Yeah,
call me out.
jump in, like
Yeah,
whoever.
right.
No, please,
Yes,
please
I'm
go
like, she's
ahead.
like,
I don't know who the expert on this is, but I know it's not me. So I'm leaning on you all.
absolutely. Well, so nixtamalization is basically like taking any kind of like ash or like at the beginning, like when people was like starting to like go with work with corn, they work with ashes, right? Whatever kind of like environment is created by creating an alkaline solution. In this case, like in Oaxaca, we started to use ashes at the beginning, but then we started to use like limestone. And in some areas like Colima and other places around the coast, they use a lot of oysters that they burn. And when they burn those oysters, the all the product that is grounded, that becomes like it has the same effect like limestone or ashes. What it creates is the solutions with water, and basically what it does is like add niacin and calcium to the corn because corn itself lack of nutrients, right? We have to activate it, and that was one of the main things when people from Spain and Europe came to this continent, that they took corn back like the same way that they did with potatoes, tomatoes, and other products. The main key here is that they never really wanted to learn the process, like nixtamalization, because if you don't do it right, basically you're gonna get sick and you're gonna create palegia, which is basically 1600 sickness from eating too much corn without any nixtamalization. Because like I said, corn itself, it doesn't have nutrients. You need to add something, in this case creating that water, for creating more easy for your body to kind of like
For
digest it.
digestion, are we talking about
Yeah,
digestion?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
if you tell me what is the two keys, it's calcium and niacin, basically. Because otherwise, your body will react with it, and eventually, with palegia, you become yellow, and your eyes will be really like yellow. You start to feel bad. I mean, in some cases, obviously, death will be the end of it, but that was in the 1600s. So that's why many people back then saw corn as the devil, a devil grain, because they couldn't understand it. But that's again is because they weren't doing it right.
No, I totally understand what you're saying because, I think we've learned, especially like with the 250th celebration of the United States right now, what we learned is when the original people from Europe came here, they could have learned so much more from the indigenous people, but it took them so long to pick up on their practices, instead of respecting their knowledge of the land and knowledge of the agriculture that was already in place, which is why so many of them died in the beginning.
Yes.
Um, And
Yes.
Alam, tell me, at what point was this especially when I think of Apapacho, like at what point were you like, this is very important to the food I serve, like understanding the process and then serving it?
Okay, so as Luis says, when the process of nixtamalization take part on the corn, it makes that our body gets the nutrients that the like niacin, calcium that normally will be not there as simple to absorb without the process. So um, other than the nutritionist part is maybe the culinary part as well, that the consist if you make corn masa without nixtamalizing, it's a completely different thing. No, you will have something similar to polenta. No, but if you take polenta and you take corn masa for tortillas, it's pretty different. So the quality of a tortilla, the flavor of the tortilla itself changed when you do the process of nixtamalization. And also, not just the tortilla, so the food that we used to eat in Mexico was based mostly on corn and also on some legumes like beans, you know. And when you mix these two together, so corn with an nixtamalized corn with a corn tortilla, you get a lot of natural protein for coming from plants and not only for animals. So that's why maybe people before here at least, well, in Mexico, they didn't used to eat that much animal protein. Well, maybe some insects, some seafood, some other animals, but not
Yes,
corn,
because
not
at that
beef.
dinner, you all put insects on at the indigenous dinner at Chicago. There was a lot of insects, not a ton,
Yeah,
but
so it was the source that we had at that time. Because we didn't have pigs, we didn't have like traditional chickens like now. We didn't have beef, we didn't have goats. So we have other animals, no? And not all of them were very easy to access for all of the people. So the mixing of corn and beans was more than enough to get like a lot of amino acids to get people have a lot of nutrients, you know? So, well, coming with this the to make a tortilla, to make the traditional food that we grow up with, you need to do the process of nixtamalization. If you get a tortilla from a factory, a lot of them do it, but maybe the balance that they use of limestone and corn are different than the balance that we use in our kitchens. When you add too much lime to the process of nixtamalization, the tortilla lasts longest. So, but it also changes the flavor. So I think what I want is to have like this balance between a really good nixtamalized corn tortilla without adding too much that start getting a little bit bitter on the end of the. So that's why we do it as well. Also, when it's fresh, it changes a lot that when it's refrigerated for weeks.
well, I was going to ask all of you. I mean, Mexico has an incredible diversity of heirloom corn varieties. How do you decide which corn you want to use for your tortilla? And do all of you use different corn or mixtures of corn depending on what you're pairing the tortilla with? Like I never thought about it that way, but is that something that you do?
Um, Okay, I can
Alan,
answer.
go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we are not in Mexico here, so sometimes we focus on what we can get from Mexico here. So this is a limitation that we have. In Mexico, we have 64 varieties of corn, and that's different sub varieties of each. 61 are endemic from Mexico. Three others were added. So there is a lot of corns, and I'm sure Luis and I am both are from Oaxaca, both are from Zapotec. But we have different corns. I'm sure of that because the regions, even in Oaxaca, there are different varieties of corn, and Oaxaca is one of the states with more varieties. The corns that Jose will find in his hometown are
In
different.
Tucson. Yeah.
Yeah. So it changed. Some corns are harder than others. Some other are softer. Some are you will need a little bit more limestone. Some are less. Some are more time on the cooking. Uh, I think it will change at the end there a little bit of how your masa is gonna get and what are you gonna do with that masa. But also it's I think something that is on the hair, and you say, okay, I grow with this corn and I want to use this corn, you know. Also
Well, let me,
the colors
yeah.
make a
Oh,
big difference. Yeah.
sure. Well, let me ask, Luis, you have your hand raised, which I appreciate. I think you have something to add.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, for example, like, back in Oaxaca, when we used corn, is we just use whatever we have. But I feeling like in the United States, sometimes we have a little bit more like time, because I think probably Chef Alam agree that basically in whatever region you're in Oaxaca, they have like one specific. Like, for example, like in the Costa, they have a little bit more like amarillo, and in the like valles centrales, like the valley in Oaxaca, they have more bolita negro, bolita amarillo, bolita blanco. But if you go to like the east side of Oaxaca, they have more like zapalote chico, which is a more like a small one. So it depends. But here in the States, I feel like if you if you have your hands on corn, you can have different varieties, because now there is different companies like Macienda, and also other like Tamoa, who bring different varieties for chefs. So we have a little bit more like pick on what we want, but also there's local corns, as you mentioned, like in New Jersey, that type of corn, right? But I think it's a matter of like sometimes, even if you want to like, there's very specific corns, at least, there's like some corns who have like very high content of starch, or who are more cristalinos, like crystal. So they were different. But I feel like sometimes it's just whatever you can have at hand, because it's like the more north you are in the country, the harder it gets to get corn. But if you're in the south, it's a little bit easier.
And so, Chef Jose, for you, like with what you're doing with your new place, and given where you're located, are you working with regional corn, um, or like, are you looking at corn from Oaxaca? Like, how important is that process? And then, how are you incorporating the change, the nixtamalization of the corn into what you're doing?
I don't know, maybe because I'm in the border. I'm in Arizona, close to Mexico. I have the opportunity to have all the South corn, like Mexico City. I have corn right now from Puebla, Oaxaca, Tlaxcala. I just ordered a new corn. There's like a pink corn from Tlaxcala. So maybe I have a little bit opportunity than Alan and Luis to have a real corn with a good quality. I'm not saying that it's not the same. Maybe they have a hard time to get it all the way to the west or east. And then, so that's a reason that I just very excited with this concept, because I have that corn close to the real tortilla, maybe not like Oaxaca, that way they made, but I do something closer. I had the opportunity to call up with Luis Martinez, and we do a good tortilla for event, and was a good different technique from Luis. So I'm learning from another chef and other techniques, and I'm doing just it's gonna be my way to do this, and it's very important. The respect for corn, and it's a daily nixtamalization. It's around 12 hours, so it's something that you need to be respect about it. And my goal is preserve our culinary heritage, presenting through a modern, through dining experience on Carizal.
Well, so let me ask that. I mean, for all of you, the process, how long is the process to 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 nixtamalize? I mean, is that the right word? To nixtamalize the corn so that you can use it for a tortilla. And is it only for a tortilla? Are we doing other things with this masa in different ways?
So I think the process itself changed like exactly from variety to one to another. So what we do, at least in our kitchens, is we cook the corn. We add water. we have a percentage of limestone regarding the weight of the corn that we are cooking. Sometimes it is like 0.6%. Sometimes it's 1%, 0.1. So it's one like 10 grams per kilo of corn or 6 grams per kilo. According how much corn we are using is according how much limestone we are using. And then we cook it. We don't have a time exactly for each corn because it changes. Sometimes some corns get faster than others. So what we do is we check it with the hand. So when we can like break it a little bit and we can peel it easily, we turn it off. And as I know and my mom teach me and the people that I know working with corn taught me, you need to let it rest. You can cook corn now and grind it now. You can do it, but it's not gonna be like as good as if you let it rest. So you let it rest all night. So you keep it in the pot with the water, fire off, and just the next day you clean it. I think this is very like some chefs do it differently. Some people wash it, some other just remove the water from the corn, from the nixtamal, and then you grind it. So it's not 24-hour process, but it is. So you don't have to be 24 hours doing it, but it takes 24 hours to be done, you know?
Well, it seems like, I guess my question with that, given because so many people can go to the store and get tortillas, corn tortillas, or, buy tortillas. How hard is it? How do you explain this to the consumer so that they value all the hard work you're putting into this product? I mean, Luis, I'm sort of curious because you sort of like how do you talk to Jose and Alam? Like, how do the three of you sort of, explain the process? I mean, Alam, when you and I first met, you were at a different restaurant and, there was a big grill up front and people were making them and it was great to watch, but I didn't know about all the work that went into making that product taste so good. I mean, the visual was fabulous, but there's so much more, there's so much rich history there.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I think like Alan probably and also Jose will understand this. Like, I mean, people doesn't really understand it, so it's pretty hard. It's a daily thing trying to like educate people about the hard work that you put on corn because sometimes I think it's a matter of like there is this thinking in the United States about like Mexican food being super cheap and they need to be like this big place, with a lot of like fajita and all that stuff, which is not wrong, That's based in some Tex-Mex for a certain region. But when you're talking about corn, here where we're talking about like thousands of years, we're talking a lot of work and people still having an issues, sometimes with paying that because they have no problem for going to a French restaurant or Italian restaurant to pay for something that is basically based with ingredients that are coming from our continent. But when you actually offering something that it comes straight from this continent, made by people from here, they have an issue with it. So it's very hard. For at least I live in the South. I live in North Carolina, and people doesn't really understand it. There is a huge culture of goits, and I'm here. Everybody loves goits, but when you actually, yeah, goits. Everybody loves goits here. With butter, salt,
Right,
pepper.
right.
But when you're actually talking about like tortilla and all that, they think like, oh really? Oh, what? You want me to charge me this amount for a taco? So it's basically with all my restaurants, since I live in a small community, I live in the mountains, live in the Blue Ridge Parkway. So like you can see, so it's green here. It's kind of like a forest here. So people, at least here, they have an issue with it. And it's a daily thing for me and for my team, like explaining why we charge and why we do what we do. Maybe in other cities like New York, like DC, it's a little bit more open-minded, but here in the South, it's way different.
Well, I can speak to this a little bit because I remember when a friend of mine opened up an expensive Chinese restaurant about 20 years ago in the DC market, and there was a lot of pushback about the price, even though it was a fine dining restaurant, because the culture was Chinese food is supposed to be cheap. The immigrant story is that the immigrant food is supposed to be cheap, whether it's tacos or bagels or Chinese food. You know what I mean? Or I hate to say, but like whole cultures are sort of categorized because it's immigrant food and that it's not French or even Italian for that matter. But I think there's a real revolution happening, especially in the last 20 years. People like yourselves are speaking up and explaining that French food is great, Italian food is great, but that where I come from has its own cuisine and its own culture. And that food not only should be respected for its history, but also for what we're putting on the table. I think there's a larger conversation there and more people are ready for it. But you're in Asheville, right?
Yes, I'm in Asheville. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and a lot of people might think that he is very open, but it's kind of like in between. They still have like successful Mexican restaurants here are like the ones who carry out burritos and nachos and all that, but I don't do that. So for me, it's like more like a stand up of who I am, my culture, but also food is political and food is social. Like that's number one. And also like we're immigrants and telling people who we are, what we do. It's a stand of like telling our story because in a way sometimes believe like, they like our food but they don't like us. So so that's
Yes, no,
that's the thing,
it's
like
very upsetting. But actually I mean, we're going off on a tangent here, but the reconciliation of that somebody could love a taco and not understand the history of that taco and how it wound up in their hand, and they're having a problem with the people who make it. I mean, it's so ludicrous. I don't even know. I don't know how to answer that
yeah.
problem, but other than it's ludicrous,
I call
and
that
that's it.
I call that the South.
Well, yeah, the South has a lot of issues. I don't get me started. I mean, there's a lot going on in this country, but I appreciate you bringing that up. I want to move over to Chef Jose and ask you, because with your new restaurant opening up, and you're in Tucson, and Tucson is near Mexico, being in Arizona. Is there the same respect for the product, like what you're doing, this more fine dining concept? Is there, do you think you'll have a tougher conversation, or do you think it'll be easier?
I don't know. I think it'll be easier. The way that we're doing this concept. I think it's something new for city. The nixtamalization is a risk, yes. But on my plates, I'm gonna have my tasting menu. I'm gonna have like 18, 19 courses, maybe 20 courses.
Oh
So
my God, that's going to be a long meal, chef.
yeah, I have to be because I cannot just concentrate. It's gonna be on corn, but I'm gonna be every day. I'm gonna change the menu. I'm gonna have like between 5 to 7 courses, but I'm changing the menu every week and see how they feel the corn nixtamalized tortillas. And a lot of people love it. And the last couple events that we did. So I think we're gonna go good. So, but a fine dining is different. It's different. Mexican fine dining. I can say omasake mexicano some point. Uh,
Well, I mean,
so
here's the thing though. I mean, like when I think of World's 50 Best or James Beard or Michelin, like Mexico City, Oaxaca, I mean, there are areas all over the country that are getting their well-deserved recognition. So it shouldn't be that hard of a reach for people to understand that this food comes in a variety of ways. It can be, street corner food, like like a simple taco, but it can also be an elevated food, like a fancy schmancy taco, right? Like, I mean, everything comes in multiple levels. I mean, Alam, you could probably talk to that, especially here in DC.
Yeah, so I think a simple taco can be a street taco, and the same simple taco can be a regarding on flavor, regarding on the process. So I know a lot of places on fine dining restaurants that don't have half of the process that a simple taco can have sometimes, no? So uh, I think this is the beauty of Mexican cooking, the beauty of corn itself, that there is a lot of way to display, there is a lot to share. So it I think that what it matters the most is the source, no, where this corn come from, the people that are doing it, the like people who grow it, people who cook it, people to serve it. All this process, I think, makes the most value of it. Makes Mexican food itself is not cheap. Sometimes it is, but it's not cheap always. No, it doesn't have to be like that always. So, regarding some of what you were saying before, people disagree to pay a lot for a taco. That's a fact. But what people sometimes have in mind of what taco is and why it's cheap, it's different of what we all of three are doing. No, so we are not doing a fried industrialized tortilla with ground beef and some toppings. No, we are doing corn that we know where it come from. We are cooking this corn. We are making the process. We are getting our proteins. We are not sometimes slow cooking these proteins for a few hours, marinating for one day. We use real meat on that. We don't use just something. And then the salsas, we use fresh produce to make our salsas. We use fresh products to make our toppings. So I think this is the difference why you can find a taco of 150 and then a taco or $5 and then a fine dining dinner which serves similar food. I think this is
Absolutely. I mean, in the
the
early
difference.
days, a slice of pizza in New York City you could get for like $1.25, and now, like at my favorite pizza place, a pizza is $28. So, I think it's an education and understanding, a respect for the product, and respect for the people who are making it. And to your point, Alan, Luis, I know you do a lot of work with labor, and sort of the rights of the labor and the voices of the indigenous farmers. And I'm sort of wondering, like, how all of you, in what you're doing, how important that is to making sure people understand those voices.
So, for me, like since working with Takio in Oaxaca, but also working here with different kind of like indigenous groups and other people who are like very dedicated to agriculture, it's obvious, like farm workers is the number one thing that we focus to. So part of like having corn in this area and also making like really good tortillas and creating really good like tacos and kind of like doing like also a little bit of fine dining here little by little. The important part is like bringing all that to our regular people. So, and I'm saying that because I started like a couple months ago, I started something called Compa Molino. So Compa Molino is a very small, like kind of like a project, like a experiment, based in one of my friends, Luna Vela, who is another nixtamalera in Austin, Texas, who has another project very similar to mine. So what I do, I have my truck and I have a corn grinder and I bring some corn nixtamalized and I go to all different kind of like park trailer like trailer parks where like immigrant lives, and basically what I do, I kind of like I tell them like if they want to ground anything, in my molino, in my corn grinder, like chocolate, mole, or the stuff, they can do it. I just like ask for a little bit of money, for like a like change the bands and stuff like that. And if they want to do some masa, also like I sell them the corn at a very low price because I grow it. So I'm able to do that. So that for me is one of the most important parts, like For me, and this is maybe because, like I've been always been like this, like I said, like for me, food is not just like being in a magazine and all that. It's like actually a way to have a direct action to help our people. Especially here, we have tons of farm workers, and I don't know if you know this, but besides California, North Carolina is the third state in the whole country that has more Oaxacans. So yeah, we have a huge population, especially in Western North Carolina. We have a lot of farm workers. So, and the problem is that most of them they work from 6 in the morning to like 6 p.m. And when they go and eat. They have to go to the Mexican stores and buy all these ugly tortillas, that they've been in the freezer for months. And so part of the idea is trying to bring a little bit of Oaxaca to them because some of them they haven't been in back home in years. So that's one thing that we're doing right now too, beside all the cooking.
That's amazing. And so thoughtful to think of people who are working. I mean, the people who are really picking our food and making sure that they're well cared for. That's really wonderful. Thank you for
We,
sharing that, Luis.
yeah, no, absolutely. Which it doesn't make sense if you think about it. Like all these people pick up our food, but they don't have access to.
Right, it's crazy. No, and it's that's something I would love to get into at another point in time. We are sort of running out of time, however. So I just want to give you each a couple minutes to just sort of say a couple things and tell people where they can find you. Chef Luis, let's start with you. Tell everybody where they can find you and find what you're doing, please.
Thank you. Well, if they can be the website takiofoods.com to if they want to know more about what we do with corn, and also they can find me on Instagram on the Luis Martinez Creative, and also Takio Foods on Instagram as well. And they can see a few other projects that we have as Cholo Charleston. I have this little, well, it's not little, but it's kind of like a takeover pop up in Charleston, and also I go around the country. But yeah, that
Great.
would be.
Thank you. We'll make sure all of that's in the show notes as well. Okay, Chef Alam, tell us where we can find you and all the things.
Thank you. Sure. So you can find us you can find me at Apapacho Taqueria, actually. It's in Fourth
All the
Street.
time, all the time.
I'm there almost every day, actually. It's on Union Market District in La Cosecha, and on their social network, Apapacho Taqueria on Instagram. And my on Instagram is Alan Mendez. We also opened a seafood pop-up focus on the Pacific coast of Mexico, so it's also really good. It's Maria by Apapacho. So you're very welcome.
Thank you. I can't wait to go and check that out because I have not been there. And Chef Jose, when is your new restaurant opening?
Wow, I think in a month we'll be open. My first fine dining. I'm very excited. Like I say, it's gonna be something from the south and the north. Sonoran. We're gonna have a seafood. We're gonna have you're gonna see the nixtamalized tortillas, tetelas, molotes, and then you can find me on Amelia's Tucson. .com, or you can go Mendez Tucson on Instagram and Facebook, and you can Chef Jose Tucson on Instagram. And very important thing, we can find us in New York City. Me and Alam and me, and we're gonna be cooking. It's gonna be a Sonoran Oaxacan fusion. You cannot miss it. You cannot miss it.
Give me the
We're
date.
gonna
It's
be
August
11
11th, right?
on the
Okay.
GBF platform. This
Game
is a
Spirit
project.
platform.
They give it opportunities to us to cook together. So we'll be Sonoran, Oaxacan cooking.
It's gonna be
I
an
cannot
amazing mix.
wait.
It's gonna be really, really tasty and fun.
It
Yeah.
sounds it. Incredible. Okay. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I'm just going to stay here for a second. I'm just going to wrap up the show. So thank you, Alam, Jose, Luis. Thank you for being here today and for sharing all of your stories because there's so much there. I mean, there's so much more we could have gotten into, but it's really fascinating. So, Obviously, you should follow all these chefs to learn more about nixtamalization and the kind of products and delicious cuisine they're putting on their plates. If you're in the DC area, you know where you can find Chef Alam. Go down to Asheville and see Luis. And then, of course, head to Tucson. I'm going to go to Tucson because I used to go there every year for my daughter. And I totally miss the chef, and I'm going back to find it again. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Don't forget, everything you heard here you can find on the list areyouonit.com, the online e-zine that tells you everything going on in the DMV. Of course, you want to follow me at NYCCINELLIS on all the platforms, but especially Instagram. Oh, and on YouTube, because this is on YouTube as well. So subscribe, like, send me a note. If you have questions for the chefs, please send them to me. I'm delighted to get you in touch. Everybody be safe out there and know where your food comes from, who's growing it, who's picking it, and who's serving it to you. I think it's really important. Be safe out there and have a delicious week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.